enjoying the new platform and kind of the new way we've decided to do things,
Absolutely.
but we are still figuring things out a little bit. So patience is always appreciated.
Patience is a virtue.
It is.
Patience
And
is a virtue. So
anything in the technical realm, it's the virtue to have, I think. So.
yeah. I just pulled this up on accident. All right, so if you are a listener on iTunes, like we said at the beginning of the show, it's one of those things of we're still trying to figure this out in terms of like snapping our audio from our video and just making sure that all platforms are working correctly. So please, again, bear with us. You can find our podcast on Facebook. All the videos are stored there, and we have a new YouTube channel, Mac.
Yeah. If you want to go to, just look for Star Wars Escape Podcast on YouTube, go check it out. Follow us there. We'll be posting some, all of these videos, and then possibly some other stuff down the line. That'll be another way that we're just kind of exploring different avenues. So, look for us there. Subscribe there. Make sure you're following us on iTunes. If you haven't already, leave us a rating and a review. That'll really help us out, be more visible on the iTunes platform.
Absolutely.
And if you're just tuning in, just because you saw it somewhere, like our Facebook page. That'll help us reach more people on the Facebook platform. So.
And if you could, if we're not being too needy right now, if you could ask other people to like us too.
Yeah.
The main reason is it gets us out to more people, and we want to share our love of Star Wars with as many people as we possibly can. So if you could do that, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
So Mac, it's been a little bit since we've last recorded. We can record on the day that we normally did because of some storms coming through.
Tornadoes.
So we're recording on a night that we don't usually do it. How have you been, man?
Man, I've been good. Starting a new job, so that's been kind of crazy. So on top of all the new stuff we're doing with the podcast, that's kind of added to the craziness. But I'm getting settled in there. Really enjoying it so far. So
good.
That's me, man. And I've been watching The Last Jedi at home, which is crazy.
Release.
It's come out since the last time we recorded, and it's got all the bonus features that we wanted. I think then just getting to see it again, watching it through. The one thing I haven't watched the commentary yet, like throughout the whole thing. I plan on doing that pretty soon, though.
Yeah, I haven't done that either. The commentary, I was going to wait until I was on a plane ride or something.
Yeah,
just something where I cannot move or do anything else, because I can lose focus pretty easily during commentaries for some reason. So those moments on planes where it's okay, I have to sit here for 4 hours, I'm going to watch a commentary. That's the best time to do it, in my opinion.
Yeah. And we'll be talking more about The Last Jedi and some of the special features that are included on the digital release. But first, Alex, we have any news? Anything new happening in the Star Wars universe?
Well, I'm glad you asked that, Mac, because we actually do. So let's jump into the news. So, this isn't going to surprise anyone, I don't think, but it looks like Jabba the Hutt is probably going to be in Solo, a Star Wars story. Is that really shocking to anyone? Is that even a spoiler? Most people assume that, of course, Jabba the Hutt's going to be in Solo.
So I'm about to take a pretty different position than you have taken. Okay. I actually was very surprised to hear that was a rumor that was being passed around. I didn't think they were going to touch Jabba. Just because that's the time frame doesn't make sense to me. I feel like Han would have been working for Jabba for several years, and then whatever happened with him getting boarded went down. And I'm not convinced that Jabba's gonna be in Solo. The sources that we've got this story coming from are just like, oh, a film insider, and like, just like, ooh, yeah, it could be anybody. It could just be like, I don't know, somebody who like delivered a package to the lot or something,
Right.
So I mean, I'm still not convinced that Jabba's actually going to be in the movie. If he is in the movie, I'm not convinced he's going to be more than just a little passing cameo. So I don't know. I'm actually not. I didn't think that was a foregone conclusion. And I'm still pretty skeptical. I don't know. That might just be my bias with how I want the movie to go. I don't want it to be centered around Jabba and everything. But
I don't think that it'll be centered around Jabba. Like you said, I was expecting more of a cameo, if anything.
Yeah.
Like just a quick reference and maybe see him, like almost like in episode 1 when he's at the pod racing.
The Boonty Eve Classic.
That's about the extent that I would like Jabba the Hutt to be in Solo, I think. But
yeah,
I would assume like we would at least get a reference or something. Or
like foreshadowing, like him being like, "Oh, you got," like at the end of the movie being like, "Oh, well, you got this job. You're really moving up in the world, and it's a job from Jabba," or something like that. But this article, the way they're making it out, is like, "Oh, the central plot is like
it was,"
and I'm just like, "No, I don't buy it. I don't buy it at all." Yeah, it was. Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, it's interesting to think about and talk about and everything, but at the end of the day, I'm still pretty skeptical on it.
Sure. Okay. Okay. So let me ask you this, Mac: are you predicting? If you had to bet your money, would you bet? And we shouldn't bet, but if you had to, would you bet that Boba Fett would be in Solo or Jabba the Hutt?
Boba Fett.
Okay.
Like, by far.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100% because I think Disney, just marketing-wise, once word starts to get out about, what happens in Solo and who's in Solo, you start telling people Boba Fett's in Solo, you get more people to come see it.
You get butts in the seats. It's like Vader in Rogue One.
Yes.
Same kind of thing.
Yes.
Like I'm surprised we haven't actually seen like, a dented helmet in a trailer or something yet.
I'm kind of surprised we haven't seen another trailer yet, to be honest with you.
That's true. There was so I was recently in the theater and there was a different version of a trailer. Yeah, and I don't know, like I'm at a loss here because there were like a few shots at the beginning, especially with the car stuff, like actually on the streets of, we're guessing, Corellia.
Yeah.
There were like a lot, it was like a lot more detailed of like the car chase. So like, but I haven't seen anybody talking about that or anything. I'm like, at this point, I think I've imagined it.
I think you have too.
But no, but I guarantee you, I saw a trailer that had, more details of the car. Not a lot else was different. Like it still had the same ending with the, the little joke at the end and that kind of stuff. Right. But it was just right at the beginning. There were a lot more shots, just more detailed of the car stuff. So,
sure, okay.
I guess speeder stuff, but it's a car chase. So.
Nice. Okay. And sorry on the video, I keep looking down. I'm looking to see if anyone's commenting on what we're saying so we can include you on the conversation. And again, if you want to add anything, you can just type your comment in and we'll get to it. But if you're listening on the podcast, you can find us on Twitter and engage with us there because we're pretty quick to respond on Twitter. Yep. So moving on to our next news item, Mac. Ready Player One is coming out, I think, next week. Not this week, but next week. And it is a Steven Spielberg film based on a really good book. I love the book. Mm-hmm. I'm skeptical about the movie.
Yeah. On one hand, it's insane. Just like the pop culture touchstones that are being included.
Yeah,
I'm like,
awesome.
when I saw the Iron Giant in there, I was like, what is that?
And a Gundam.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
it's
pretty
everything. Cool. And so, I mean, like, there's great potential to be really great or really terrible. Right. I tend to be skeptical and kind of lean towards there's going to be some issues, but there's so much to focus on. I don't know how you pack all that in.
Well, it's not even that. I expected the movie. Well, I mean, I read the book, so I knew all those references and all those characters and stuff are in the story. It's just the visualization of it that messed with me, because I was imagining more like the Matrix. Like, once they go inside, it looks like the real world, not like a video game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so that's kind of been an adjustment for me. But anyways, all that to say...
The reason we're talking about it on this show...
Steven Spielberg, a couple days ago, was asked if Star Wars was going to be one of the IPs in Ready Player One. And he said no. Like, he couldn't get the rights to it. Well, and then just a few days later, he said, yes, Star Wars is going to be in Ready Player One. And so it's like, well, which is it, Steven?
Yeah.
Steven, we need a straight answer.
Steven. Yeah. The beard is just confused on this one, I think.
Well, we've got some specifics in terms of what is actually going to be in the movie.
Yeah.
We know an X-Wing is.
Mm-hmm.
And then...
little R2-D2.
R2-D2. Those
R2-D2
are the two
action.
that are for sure.
Yeah.
Anything else, I'm not sure. But what was kind of funny during their press junket, Ben Mendelsohn is in this movie. He's like the villain of the movie.
Yeah.
They were kind of talking about in terms of the properties of, is Star Wars going to be in it or not? And Ben Mendelsohn said, well, and he was director critic. He said, oh, I built the Death Star. You could have just asked me, Steven. So I thought that was pretty good.
Ben Mendelsohn is one of my favorite Star Wars personalities right now.
Yeah, he's the best.
He's really good.
He's so good.
Yeah, if you guys haven't watched or heard the interview with him on Steel Wars, check it out. It's great. We've been plugging it for like the last several weeks. So
so good.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely check that out. But yeah, it's it looks like, one of the characters is flying around an X-Wing, and R2-D2 will be part of Ready Player One. And so I thought that was pretty interesting just to see, Steven Spielberg finally play around with some Star Wars stuff.
It'll be fun. I mean, we've been waiting to see that, and like he's always kind of like Steven Spielberg is in the DNA of Star Wars, like especially like
for sure,
yeah, because just with him and George Lucas's relationship.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it'll be cool to see him actually like get to really put his hands, and they're going to be really tiny things. They're going to be pushed off to the side. Star Wars is so big right now, and they're still putting stuff out that it's difficult to bring that to the forefront in an avenue that's not Star Wars. You know,
you don't want to make it the central focus because it's an opposing, production company. So it's not. You don't want to be like promoting the other guy, like your competitor necessarily. You want to like, yeah, this is cool, but we're not making another Star Wars movie here. Yeah,
I don't know. It's kind of, it's funny. I just don't understand why he was straight up like, no. Like in one interview, and like
that was
a
odd.
few days later, he was just like, oh no, we got some stuff. I don't know.
It was really, really odd.
I'm sure there's maybe some backdoor stuff that was up in the air still at some point, or maybe there's
like Darth Vader, like getting the character of Darth Vader, I imagine would be harder than having a character flying around in an X-Wing.
Yeah,
in my mind.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can put R2-D2 in there. It's not.
Oh, yeah,
it's not anybody's likeness. It's just. Yeah. I mean, just like E.T.'s been in Star Wars, so.
I love that, by the way. Every time I watch that scene, I'm like, There's ETs.
Oh, there they are. There they are.
It's real.
Yeah. And Yoda's in ET, so.
Yeah. And that's, I read one of those internet theories. That's why E.T. was so freaked out by Yoda. Because
he knew him.
They know them. They know each other.
Or knew of him,
right.
at least.
It's like, yeah. So... so anyways, Ready Player One, gonna be some Star Wars things in there, so that's pretty cool. So our last piece of news is, and I don't even know if it was kind of a misleading title in terms of, it said there's a hidden detail in The Last Jedi that nobody has spotted.
Somebody has a theory is a better title. Somebody came up with a theory.
Yes. Yeah. And it's one of those things that I wanted to at least talk about the theory because I thought it was an interesting theory.
Yeah.
And so basically the theory that this person was talking about is that by the way, if you haven't seen The Last Jedi, spoiler alert, we're going to be talking about it a lot. Anyways, in the final scene, or one of the final scenes in the throne room, when Kylo Ren is reaching out for the lightsaber and you have Rey reaching out for the lightsaber at the same time, basically they're, the hidden detail that they've discovered is that Mac is rolling his eyes right now. One of the hidden details that they discovered is that nobody has, an upper hand in terms of Kylo doesn't have more of the lightsaber coming to him and Rey doesn't have more of the lightsaber coming to her. It's perfectly balanced between the two.
They're playing tug of war. Nobody's moving.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so when that is happening, basically this person's theory is that the Force doesn't want either one of them to win. Right? I mean, that's how I took it, right? That's what this person's theory was.
Yes. His theory is that they are, so he sets it up that Kylo and Rey are absolute equals in every aspect.
Yes.
And the Force will never let one overcome the other. Right. Ever. They're taking this one moment and being like, the Force will never let either one of them win over the other ones, trying to make an episode 9 prediction, basically.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say that guy's completely unfounded because some of the dialogue in The Last Jedi makes you feel like that's kind of what at least Rian Johnson was hitting at. That's how he interprets the Force. It's definitely not how George Lucas interprets the Force.
No.
At all.
No. And I mean, there's just... And I think JJ's more in the George camp.
My man.
Which, the reason that this is a conversation is because it has implications for the next movie, the finishing out of the trilogy.
Yeah.
Episode 9. And so, I mean, just the idea that it's just kind of crazy to me that just because in this one moment they were both pushing equally or pulling equally hard on a lightsaber and it broke, that means that has these cosmic implications.
Right.
I definitely think Snoke saying, the dark rises and the putting them on the same plane, but
sure.
I don't, and so they're absolutely on the same plane, as far as strength and importance. But
their power levels are the same.
Yeah, they're both over 9,000. No,
there's caught that. Yeah, thank you.
They're but somebody's gonna win, and it doesn't have to be somebody beats somebody in a lightsaber battle. Somebody's gonna turn, somebody's gonna end up becoming too arrogant and getting consumed that way. Something has to happen narratively.
Yeah. It's just one of those things of, it's really more how you interpret, I guess, your worldview kind of goes into how you interpret the Force too, of just well, there's always going to be evil. So You know, it's just like one of those things of like where I do like the message Return of the Jedi was like, no, like things can change.
Yeah.
You know, like things can absolutely change. And I do believe that Ryan's interpretation of the Force is a little bit different than what we got in Return of the Jedi. In the sense
Absolutely.
of, you know, to George Lucas, and I would assume, like you said, J.J. Abrams as well, balance means light winning.
Yeah. Yeah.
Balance doesn't mean you have equal parts evil, equal parts good at the same time, you know, and so...
But that's definitely the Ryan camp.
I would say so.
Yeah.
You know, rewatching The Last Jedi, that's definitely something that I think stood out to me more so than when I saw it in theaters.
Yeah. And like, to a certain degree, that school of thought is what Luke is feeling when he's at his low point. I think that's what Luke is just like, oh, well, there's always good, there's always bad. That's balance. You know, no Jedi, no Sith is great. But he comes out of that at the end. Like, right. So I don't think Ryan's overall message is that, you know, balance is nobody wins, it's all at equal footing. I think that's what he put Luke's mindset being for most of the film.
For sure.
But I think the ending kind of overcomes that a little bit. Because I think Luke starts to believe again.
Yeah, when he opens himself up to the Force again, it's like, oh, I've been ignoring things for a long time, and I was wrong about some things. And I thought that was kind of a cool message of like, he cut himself off from the Force for a good reason, but it ended up being a bad thing that he did because like he didn't realize how bad things had gotten, or like how much Rey needed help.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
Like one of those things of...
If you take a character like the Bendu, he's definitely like all about balance. The Bendu and DJ are basically the same character.
By the way,
they have almost the same... Yeah.
Rewatching that, I don't think Benicio del Toro gets enough credit for his characterization of DJ in The Last Jedi because...
It's so good.
That guy was great.
Yeah, it's so good. But like a character like the Bendu and DJ are kind of in the camp of what we're talking about, what this new theory is getting at. But you can have the characters like that exist in the world and point out things, but ultimately the protagonists are still the good guys, you know? Right. Like the overall message doesn't change. So I don't know. This theory, I'm not buying into it that much. It's a little, I don't know. It's just kind of pessimistic, I think.
You think? And it's one of those things, I think people are having a hard time communicating what their problem is with the Last Jedi, and that might be part of it, is like, it doesn't feel hopeful.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I think Star Wars has always felt that way. Even strangely, Revenge of the Sith feels hopeful at the end, for sure. I mean, like you get the twin sunset, you know, and you know what, and I think you get the added benefit of what happens,
knowing what's coming.
You know, and you know that he's going to be redeemed, and you know that his son is going to throw away the lightsaber and. All that's going to happen. So you get that added benefit. Right now, we don't have that with The Last Jedi.
Yeah. But I mean, Empire was not a hopeful ending. You got Han out of commission. Luke just lost a hand and realized the worst dude in the galaxy is his dad. The rebellion's on the run. Like, it's not a good ending.
Lando has stolen Han's clothes. terrible things going on in
inexplicably.
The
yeah.
Weird. It's pretty weird. We're gonna do a whole podcast about that one day of just like
how weird it is that Lando's dressed as Han
on here, and we're gonna grill him. Like, hey,
look,
What's the deal, dude? Were your clothes messy? Like, what? Why are you wearing Han's clothes or Han?
Yeah, hands.
Han's clothes.
I hope we get that in Solo. I hope Donald Glover calls him Han.
He better. Chewbacca.
So, Chewbacca.
Chewbacca. All right, so that should just about do it for the news, and we will move on to our main topic of the podcast tonight. And we're going to be talking specifically about the documentary included on The Last Jedi, coming up on the Blu-ray release next week, and it's already on the digital release. The Director and the Jedi. I almost forgot it. It's like I was looking right at it on the show notes. I'm like, what is it called again? The Director and the Jedi. So I thought there were some pretty interesting things.
Yes,
and in that documentary.
You made a tweet that definitely just hit the nail right on the head. Is that the most significant thing, the biggest takeaway from the Director and the Jedi is just how badly Rian Johnson needed the Thala scene.
They were going to like fly it on a helicopter to the
They did. Like, did you see it?
Yes.
They
it's
had
just
it
like, come on.
It's like this space manatee in a harness strapped to a helicopter that they're like flying to this protected island because it's just, and they like cut important things that would have been great.
I mean, did you watch those deleted scenes? If you haven't seen the deleted scenes, when you get the Blu-ray, I would just go watch the deleted scenes first.
Immediately, yeah.
Because they were great deleted scenes, and like you could almost argue that all of them should have been in the movie. Almost all of them.
Well, there's a few that I definitely agree with the decision to cut for one reason or another, but like I think probably 2/3 of them I wanted in the movie.
Oh, and you know that Finn and Phasma fight, so much better than what we got.
It was cut a little weird, but like obviously it wouldn't have been refined because
I'm okay with that getting cut, but there's other things like the fish village dance thing.
Yes, great.
You have to
Wonderful.
have that. How do you cut that from the movie?
Yeah, it gives like Luke and Rey some kind of foundation for going forward, you know?
And it makes Luke a little more likable in the beginning of the movie when he's kind of unlikable.
Yeah.
And it makes him feel more like Luke again. And so it's just one of those things. Anyways, we're getting a little off topic in terms of deleted scenes, but the deleted scenes were very, very interesting. But, you know, this documentary, number one, I'll say it's everything I think me and you both hope for in terms of what we were wanting in terms of, you know, like behind the scenes stuff. This is just as good as the beginning for the episode one. Like it's really up there in terms of documentary and behind the scenes stuff. And, you know, I really appreciate Rian Johnson for, you know, I don't know if he allowed that or pushed for it. But I thought that was awesome.
Yeah, I think he must have had a hand in actually getting that done. Because it seemed like he had blocked out a considerable amount of time of his schedule to do interviews and allow, you know, the documentary cameras on set and that kind of thing. And there's a lot of reasons why a filmmaker would want that. That kind of footage, that extra content goes a long way for continuity purposes. You know, the more photographs and stuff you have taken on set, the more reference material you have for sequels, or if you're trying to make sure, you know, for continuity's sake, you know, in when you're cutting. But yeah, I mean, this documentary is fantastic.
I'm getting a comment texted to me right now. They said more Adam Driver. Adam Driver is in this documentary in a tank top.
Yep.
he's jumping up and down, swinging his lightsaber, and one of the cool things about Adam Driver in this is like he smiles a lot behind the scenes, and it's like one of those like reassuring things for me, because like we've talked about this before on the podcast.
Yeah,
kind of like
you thought he hated it.
Yeah, I'm afraid he hates Star Wars. It's like one of those things like, why are you doing this if you hate it? But it seems like he enjoys Star Wars, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, I think he probably hates press circuiting for Star Wars. Like, I think he probably hates the press circuit.
Like all the questions and stuff?
Yeah, he is not into it, ever. Like, I haven't seen one interview or, like, read one interview where he's, like, been really giving enthusiastic answers or anything.
Right.
But yeah, you get to see him. He's not a big focus in the documentary. The title being The Director and the Jedi, it's largely focused on Mark Hamill.
Yes.
And so what I thought was really cool was getting a more whole idea of after The Last Jedi had come out, everybody was freaking out because they were saying like, oh, Mark Hamill said that he hated what Rian Johnson did with Luke's character. And we got to see that story, the Mark Hamill wrestling with where Luke Skywalker is now story. We got to see that unfold in its entirety in the documentary.
Frankly, I'm a little surprised by them leaving some of the comments that Mark made in the documentary in terms of... And it's one of those things, I feel like on the press junket, he made it more of like, I came to terms with it and I agree with Ryan when he was doing the press, but in the documentary, he kind of left it at like, we disagreed, but I gave it my all.
Yeah.
In terms of like the characterization of Luke Skywalker, and that's probably the biggest issue with most people for The Last Jedi. And I would say after watching this documentary, Mark Hamill agrees with you personally.
Yeah. I liked seeing Mark Hamill on set and everything.
Yeah.
He seemed to really appreciate all the creature actors and droids and crew and everything like that. That was really reassuring to see.
Yeah.
Because Mark Hamill's, if you're a Star Wars fan, Mark Hamill's your hero, and just seeing that he's like genuinely joyous and considerate person. Like,
he loves this stuff.
He's
a fan
cool.
too, and I think you really get that sense from this documentary that Mark Hamill is just as big of a Star Wars fan as me and you. Like he loves Star Wars.
Yeah, and that's why he's got just as strong opinions about where Luke Skywalker is and that kind of thing as any other Star Wars fan.
And part of me wonders if like he experienced the same thing a lot of the audience experienced, and we've talked about this. Our level of how much we enjoy The Last Jedi has kind of been changing over time of like, you feel like you have to defend it at first because, for whatever reason, because of Star Wars and you love it. But then when you really come to terms with it, there's some things in the movie that, you don't necessarily care for, but like, it feels like Mark Hamill went on that same sort of journey that most fans did of like, the setup that we got in The Force Awakens and the promises made by The Force Awakens by J.J. Abrams felt like they were just like tossed to the side in The Last Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
And that seems to be the main message that Mark Hamill was kind of upset with in terms of like, well, Luke wouldn't be hiding. Luke wouldn't be like, he might be in isolation, but it wouldn't be because he's running from the fight. And so I think, I thought that was kind of cool that they left that in there. And especially it left it unresolved.
Yeah. No, I was impressed that they did that they were willing to, tell that story as truthfully and authentically as possible. Because they could have tied it up with a nice little bow like they did during, a lot of the press stuff. I'm sure Mark Hamill received notes on how to respond to things, and But yeah, I mean, that's, yeah.
One of the big takeaways from this documentary that, as I was watching, I really picked up on very, very quickly was that Ryan Johnson is very, very demanding, but he's not a jerk about it. He's very soft-spoken. He's a very quiet kind of guy, but it's going to be his way or no way.
Yeah, he is the definition of an auteur. He has his signature style. He has exactly his vision, and everyone else involved serves the purpose of making that vision come true.
Yeah.
And like you said, he seems like a really great guy.
Yeah.
You know, as far as easy to work with. Well, maybe not easy to work with, but at least not
he's not
abrasive.
He's not going to yell at you or like demean you because you're not doing what he says, but he's going to keep doing it until you do what he says.
Yeah.
You know, and it's one of those things of like, he has a very specific vision in his head and it's going to be accomplished. It's not one of those where the sense, you know, and I'm comparing to other directors. I think both JJ and Gareth Edwards seem more of the collaborative type of, especially, I think Gareth Edwards was just kind of like, well, this looks cool. Let's do this. You know, and that's fine. J.J. Abrams is more like, I could see J.J. Abrams asking Mark Hamill, how do you think we should do this? And then he does it. You know, like, that's kind of what J.J.'s style is. Just, you know, following him from other things that, you know, I'm J.J. fanboy. That seems to be his kind of thing. Like, he works best in collaboration, whereas Ryan is very like, no, this is how it's going to be.
Mm-hmm. And he's brutally efficient. They finished right on schedule. They were talking. I got nervous, even though I had already seen the movie and it had obviously come out with no like major production flaws or anything. But like, I got nervous just in how they were talking about like, if we have bad weather one of these days, that's a setback for like a couple weeks.
But
like,
they're gonna get Sea Cow in the movie for sure. Like, they're gonna make sure that Mark Hamill has that scene that is completely unnecessary to the movie.
Yes.
That's going to be in it because that's part of Ryan Johnson's vision, and nobody's going to mess with Ryan Johnson's vision.
I cannot wrap my head around. It was absurd.
Well, and it honestly kind of made me upset. It's just like, you went out of your way to accomplish that when you could have done so much more with other things. Like, it almost seems like slightly obsessive, and maybe that's the hallmark of a genius, you know, like, I don't know. But, like, he was obsessed about getting Sea Cow in there, and he was fine, obviously, with cutting other scenes out. I think the biggest moment that I really picked up on, you know, that Ryan is that way, is a moment he had in the documentary with Michael Kaplan, which is the costume designer. Mm-hmm. I could just tell from Kaplan.
Kaplan was over it.
He's like, are you serious? Like, that's what you want?
Yeah.
Okay, whatever. And he did it, but it's like when I went back and I watched The Force Awakens, there's a little mini documentary with Kaplan and J.J. Abrams. Like, they're like hugging all over each other. They're like, ha ha, yeah, let's do this costume. Let's do this costume. This is we're making Star Wars. But then to see his reaction to Ryan Johnson, it's like very standoffish. Don't talk to me. I'll get this done. I'll get what you want. But it's like they didn't have a very good relationship. And maybe I'm reading way too much into it. But that to me is like when I was like, oh, yeah, it's a different atmosphere on set, I think.
Yeah.
And, I mean, you even had Carrie Fisher kind of mention that of like, she kind of says in the documentary, like, he seems like he's a very soft-spoken, quiet guy, but he, you know, he's...
Yeah.
It's Carrie Fisher, so she says some things that I cannot repeat on the podcast.
On the family-friendly Star Wars Escape podcast. Carrie Fisher quotes are hard, especially later in life. Carrie Fisher quotes can't fit a whole lot of those on here.
Yeah, absolutely.
One thing that I thought was crazy, and this is an extension of the the siren thing, sea cow as you refer to it.
I like sea cow.
Sea cow. But Canto Bite was absurd. Like just the scale
It's like
and
he thought he was going to do
of it all.
The whole movie was Canto Bite.
Yes, and most of the stuff that we saw in the documentary that they were getting, like, we didn't see a lot of it, or if we did, it was so far in the background, that it wasn't essential. And Canto Bite is not most people's favorite part of the movie.
It's like, most people's least favorite part.
It's my least favorite part, just because.
I just like all the aliens and stuff.
I mean, yeah, there's cool stuff to look at and that kind of thing, but like, so yeah, I mean, yeah, but I think all of that just kind of goes to show, like, what, we've been talking about is that Rian Johnson has a vision and he's going to make it, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Now, one of the things that I kind of picked up on, I was writing notes as I was watching it, and I don't know why I wrote this. Maybe you can kind of help me out. I said, not all actors could see his vision. And then I put next to that Oscar Isaac. Did you catch that any?
I mean, I saw when Oscar Isaac seemed to be asking more questions than most people.
Yeah.
And to me, he felt like he was really trying to do some character work and understand why Poe's doing these things and everything. And Rian Johnson was just like, look, I want Poe to do this, so you're going to do this.
Yes, that's it. That's exactly.
That's kind of what I
kind of no explanation there for like why they're doing certain. It's almost kind of like what Poe and Holdo went through.
Yeah.
I think Oscar Isaac probably like felt that same kind of reaction of like, why though?
Yeah, yeah. And there's historically, Star Wars directors have not necessarily been actors directors. George Lucas being the
faster, more intense.
That's the only feedback he ever gives. And so he's not an actor's director. But you've got Kirshner, who comes in and really like brings some performance out of people, and I don't think Gareth Edwards was very much into working with actors.
No,
and you just get that
shot.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's Ryan as well. I mean, I think he views actors as tools for him to manipulate and accomplish his vision with.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're an actor's director, you realize that those are your collaborators, and they're just as much making the movie as you are. So.
Right. So yeah, kind of to wrap this up, is there anything else that really stood out to you in this documentary? That you're just like, wow, I can't believe that happened.
Just the image of the sea cow flying through the air. That's it. That's
my biggest takeaway. I was like, I can't believe this. Like,
yeah,
he moved heaven and earth just to get sea cow seen in there.
Yeah, that, and I thought it was really cool to see John Campea and Christian Harloff and some people like that from like Jedi Council and stuff on there. I thought that was really cool. I've been watching them for years, and it was cool to see that kind of.
I think we found our episode title for the podcast this week. Rian Johnson loves sea cows.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, so that will do it for our discussion on the director and the Jedi. We're going to do 2 quick segments that we haven't done in a couple of weeks. These
are going to be rapid fire, too.
For sure.
They're going to be just...
For sure.
So,
let's jump into the weekly holocron, where we kind of dive into the deep lore of Star Wars. So... what we're talking about this week on the weekly holocron is Darth Plagueis the Wise.
So Snoke, right?
No.
So Snoke? That's yeah.
No.
So like the previous owner of Rey's staff? Is that's who we're talking about?
No, not that person. No.
Okay. All right.
So Darth Plagueis, mentioned in Revenge of the Sith by Emperor Palpatine as he's talking to Anakin at that weird space bubble opera, whatever's going on there. He talks about, how Darth Plagueis the Wise could, manipulate and prolong life in a way. And obviously this is something that Anakin wanted because he kept having visions of Padme dying. And so this is something that he's desperately seeking. And so Palpatine shares this story of, this Sith Lord who could, keep people from dying, but he ended up being killed by his apprentice. And now what we got in the old EU is obviously we got confirmation that Palpatine is Darth Plagueis' apprentice. And that's why you pick that, you infer that from the scene that, he kind of like, he smiles and shakes his head, talking about how, he couldn't stop himself from dying because his apprentice killed him. But we don't necessarily have that confirmation in canon.
Yeah.
It could be just a story now that Palpatine was just sharing to manipulate Anakin. But, we can assume Darth Plagueis was Darth Sidious or Palpatine's master. And so Plagueis was a moon, which M-U-U-N. Like, they're kind of humanoid type aliens with really long faces.
Got big old foreheads.
Gray. They
got like 8 heads.
8? No.
Like, so you know how you have like 4 and then 5.
Meant, like, they physically had 8 head. Like.
Oh no!
I think you're thinking of something else.
No.
It's not Hydra or. Yeah. So Darth Plagueis is a mun, whatever, and we see some of those species in Episode 2, actually, the Banking Clan, and in the Clone Wars. So if you want to go back and see what they look like, but from the old novel. Like, he was more of a scientist-based Sith in terms of, like, genetically, like, manipulating things and
Frankenstein.
Yeah, Frankenstein, like a Victor Frankenstein-type character.
Yeah.
And it's a good book. If you haven't read the book, you should check it out. It's not canon anymore, but it's still really good.
It's James Luceno, right?
James Luceno. And
he's great.
What I like about the book is that it implies that it leaves enough room for you to wonder if Darth Plagueis created Anakin Skywalker. Like, it kind of hints at that a little bit, or like or at least he created Sith life, and to balance it out, the Force created Anakin Skywalker.
Yeah.
So both of those kind of ideas are in there. So it's an interesting read, and Darth Plagueis is an interesting character that we are obsessed with wanting to be in all Star Wars now.
Yeah. I mean, that scene in Revenge of the Sith, though, is just so iconic.
Oh yeah, it's a great
tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise.
Ian McDiarmid does a really great job delivering those lines, and I think that's why it stuck with us for so long. Is like, well, who's Darth Plagueis the Wise?
They're ridiculous lines too.
They really are. It's like
could influence the midichlorians to create life.
It's like so over the top.
Yeah, but I mean it's good, and I mean I definitely want to see more about Darth Plagueis in canon. You know,
for sure.
I'd love him to make some appearances. You know, again. But yeah, it's cool. The current status that we have him in, like being in Legends, actually serves like an in-universe purpose though, and I kind of like that. So I don't want like a Darth Plagueis book again. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So it's like a legend. Like Like we're not sure what's true, what's not. Is that what you're kind of hinting at?
Yeah.
I like that.
He would be a legend to basically everybody but Palpatine. You know?
Right.
So I kind of
I don't want the full story on him. It's
Yeah.
not like Snoke. Like Snoke is different. Like Snoke is a character that we see in a movie.
Yeah.
Plagueis we've never seen in a movie, and so it's more fun to like leave that wide open. Whereas Snoke, it's a little more fun to dive deep into who that is backstory.
For sure.
So yeah, that will do it for the weekly Holocron. So what's up next, Matt?
Yeah, so we got constructing a lightsaber. This is the part of the show where we just kind of talk about something film related. We've already done a lot of kind of production related stuff with talking about the director and the Jedi. So I'm gonna keep this real brief. But the man I want to talk about today is Mr. David Prowse.
Controversial guy.
Yes, and I'm gonna stay
later in life.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to give mainly just facts, just kind of some factoids, instead of really getting into the philosophy of it. That's a topic for a later date. We could do a whole episode on what we think of him. But David Prowse is the guy inside the Darth Vader suit in the original trilogy. So he was a bodybuilder. He was like 6'6".
Yeah.
Which is apparently huge. But
Get a chopper.
No, he's English, so definitely not.
Get to the chopper.
Get to the chopper.
Get to the chopper.
What a terrible English accent.
I'm just gonna stop now. I'm offending so many people.
Yeah. But so he's the guy inside the Darth Vader suit. His voice is not great. Doesn't have that gravitas that you want Darth Vader to have.
Watching the behind the scenes features of the original trilogy and him delivering Darth Vader's lines are just hysterical.
Priceless. Go and look it up. You can look it up on YouTube and stuff too. It's great. But yeah, so he was under the impression that he was Darth Vader. And then he didn't realize that when he got to the premiere of A New Hope, there's just a different voice. And it's James Earl Jones. And nobody told him.
Poor guy.
And so, I know, it's so sad. But so he's just, like, obviously very hurt. And that was kind of the first stake in between, like, him and Lucasfilm's relationship. But he did the other two movies in the original trilogy. It's been rumored, and this is something that's very controversial now, especially with the release of I Am Your Father, which is kind of a new documentary about him. But it was always thought that he was really bad about leaking plot details.
And that's why
Yes, he actually was given the line in Empire at the end. He was given the line, "No, Obi-Wan killed your father," and that was going to be. And so Mark Hamill knew what he was actually supposed to react to. He knew that it was.
So I'm sure David Prowse was like, "Whoa, that's."
He was like, "Really?
That's overacting there, Mark."
Yeah. But so I mean, there's all kinds of other, instances where he's just slided. Like, he didn't even get to be the face of Darth Vader when he was unmasked in Return of the Jedi. Like, they just bring in Sebastian Shaw. So needless to say, he basically is just sort of an outcast of the Star Wars family. He's been banned from official Star Wars conventions and stuff, so you'll never see him in a celebration or anything like that. The reason why is kind of up in the air. Nobody really knows.
There's bad blood between, I think.
And like the dude's not been treated very well by Lucasfilm either. Just like in the way, like they could have told him, they're like, "Look, you're just a body double," and that would have been one thing, but he just didn't know.
Listening to him in the suit, like, he is very imposing. Like, he's a big guy.
Physically, he's got like an amazing stride, and like his hands and stuff like that. Like, he definitely brought a lot to Darth Vader.
Absolutely.
Like,
and it is. I mean, even in the little bit in Revenge of the Sith where Hayden Christensen is in the suit, it's like, it's not Darth Vader. Like,
it's different.
Darth Vader wouldn't fold his arms that way. So, I mean, he does add a lot to it, but, like, listening to him in the behind-the-scenes stuff, I could totally see why some of the people, like, on set were going to be like, this movie's going to bomb. Like, this is going to be terrible. Yeah. This is going to be the worst movie ever made.
Main bad guy has this just, like, kind of shrill voice. It's like...
it's very high-pitched. More high-pitched than you would imagine.
Yeah, it's not imposing or threatening in any way. So, well, anyway, that's going to do it for constructing a lightsaber.
That's going to do it for the show.
That'll be it. So, you guys can like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. That's SW Escape Pod. You can send us an email at swescapepod@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you guys. Your thoughts on anything we talked about.
There is another way. Okay, let me run down real quick. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube now.
YouTube now, yeah.
It's on YouTube, Star Wars Escape Podcast. Or you can call Ryan Johnson up. Say, I have a sea cow I need to deliver you. But it's actually us inside the sea cow. And we will pop out. And we are going to interview Ryan Johnson on the podcast if you do that for us.
Basically, we're looking for information as far as his home address and phone number.
Nothing I said made any sense at all. But if someone could put that together and make sense of it, I promise you it will work.